Let me give you another challenge, which was kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but I'll give you a different twist on it. After Curiosity, after traveling 450 million kilometers, we had to land within 2 kilometers. To give you kind of a different illustration, that's the same as if you go outside and hit the ball toward a golf ball toward St. Andrews, and it has to land straight in the cup. That's how accurate we have to land. Now, to make it a little bit more challenging for the good golfers, that cup is moving at high speed also, because Mars is moving, and you still have to get straight in the cup. So that gives you an idea of the navigation challenge that we had to do to actually be able to get there. And we had to develop a lot of technology, which ended going into the GPS satellite and the GPS technology. It's a little bit different because we don't have satellites around Mars, to guide us. But that's the kind of technology we had to develop to be able to be so accurate, in our landing. Let me give you another example of a challenge. When we were arriving at Mars, we were arriving at a speed of 18,000 kilometers per hour or 12,000 miles per hour. So that means you can go from here to the East Coast in like 15 minutes. And if you take the amount of energy in the capsule that was coming in at that high speed, if you are technical people like the gentleman sitting here, that's 1/2 mass multiplied by velocity squared. The energy coming in is the equivalent of 18,000 race cars going at full speed. That's how much energy were coming in. And in 7 minutes, which is the time it takes us from the top of the atmosphere to the surface, we had to dissipate that energy and land softly on the surface. So that's another one of these little challenges that we were facing. So now then came the trick of how do you land, on another planet. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is the signal from Mars to Earth take about like 10 minutes, to 15 minutes, 14 minutes, depending on the time. So you cannot joystick. You cannot sit down and joystick your landing. Everything has to be done autonomously. And as I said earlier, you have to dissipate all that energy as you are coming in. So the first thing we do, we have a heat shield, so we slam in the atmosphere, and we use the drag in the atmosphere to slow us down. But the atmosphere is not thick enough to slow us enough. So the next step we do, as I'll show you in a video, then we open a parachute at supersonic speed, and it's the largest parachute ever built. So that slows us down, somewhat more. Now, on Earth, because we have a thick atmosphere, you can come on the parachute all the way down, like a parachutist does. But on Mars, its atmosphere is too thin, so it doesn't slow us enough. So we have to come with additional tricks. So after we do that, then we fire a retro rocket to slow us even further. But then the problem, if we take the retro rocket all the way down to the surface, it's going to create all kinds of dust, and rocks are flying all over the place. It could damage. So we need another trick, after to be able to land softly. So when we landed Spirit and Opportunity about 7, 8 years ago, or 10 years ago now, then just before we touched the surface, we inflated the airbags, all around the lander, like your car airbags, and that allows us to bounce on the surface, and when we stopped, we deflated them, and we came out from the airbag. On Curiosity, the one we did a year ago, the rover was just too big. It was like 10 times bigger than Spirit and Opportunity, so airbags would not work. So the trick we came up with is to come and hover above the surface, at about 30 feet, and then just sky crane the rover from the lander down to the surface. So just imagine you are sitting on another planet and we're hovering and descending all that, and everything has to be done completely autonomously. So that means we have to test it, we have to develop it ahead of time, and so on. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a video, which first you will see some of the testing we did. So you see how do we prepare for these things. And then there will be a few segments where actually some of the engineers who worked on it to tell you about how nervous they were, and the challenge that we're facing. Then we'll take you in the mission operation room and across the country, so you see what actually was happening at the time when we landed in there. Now, to give you a heads up, part of the movie is animation. But it's not animation like Disney. It's animation which is driven by actually what was happening. So when you see something coming in or inflating or something, it was happening on Mars, but we didn't have a camera on Mars to watch it, so we did some animation. And in some situation, you will be seeing the picture taken from the rover as it was landing. So you will be seeing, and I'll try to point it out for you, actually what we were watching as it was coming down, to the surface. And I would like you to notice a couple of things. I mean, one is the age of the people who were there. They were mostly in their 20s and their 30s. There were a few people like me, trying to act smart, in the back. But really, the smart people were the younger people who were doing all that work. And see the nervousness, on their face as we were progressing, as we were going down to the landing. So let's see if that all works.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make engine start. 0. Let's go.
So that's when we separated from the rocket and we were heading toward Mars.
When people look at it, it looks crazy. That's a very natural thing. Sometimes when we look at it, it looks crazy. It is the result of reasoned engineering thought, but it still looks crazy. From the top of the atmosphere down to the surface, it takes us 7 minutes. It takes 14 minutes or so for the signal from the spacecraft to make it to Earth. That's how far Mars is away from us. So when we first get word that we've touched the top of the atmosphere, the vehicle has been lying dead on the surface for at least 7 minutes.
Entry, descent, and landing, also known as EDL, is referred to as the 7 minutes of terror because we've got literally 7 minutes to get from the top of the atmosphere to the surface of Mars, going from 13,000 miles an hour to 0 in perfect sequence, perfect choreography, perfect timing, and the computer has to do it all by itself with no help from the ground. If any one thing doesn't work just right, it's game over.
Things are looking good. Coming up on entry. Vehicle reports entry interface. At this time, it will begin pressurizing the propulsion system to increase the thrust of the system. We'll use that for all the maneuvering in the atmosphere we're about to do. We are standing by for guided start of guided entry. We are beginning to feel the atmosphere as we go in here. The vehicle has just reported via tones that it has started guided entry. At this time, the vehicle is beginning to steer its way to the target. We have seen peak deceleration.
Yeah, we had 50 million people in the United States alone watching.
It is reporting that we are seeing G's on the order of 11 to 12 Earth G's. Reversal 2 is starting. We are now getting telemetry from Odyssey. We should have parachute deploy around Mach 1.7. The parachute is deployed. We are decelerating. Speed chill has separated.
So
We're
that's
down the
an
ground.
actual picture
We're down to
taken
90
from
meters
the
per
landing
second at an
coming
altitude
down.
of 6.5 kilometers and descending. Standing by for backshell separation. We are in powered flight. altitude of 1 kilometer and ascending. Standing by for sky crane. Sky crane has started.
Eagle to us, you remain strong.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars. Curiosity will take us.
Not very often you see engineers crying.
Got thumbnails.
Today, right now, the wheels of curiosity have begun to blaze the trail for human footprints on Mars. This is an amazing achievement.
Well, today on Mars, history was made on Earth. The successful landing of Curiosity marks what is really an unprecedented technological tour de force. It will stand as an American point of pride far into the future.
Well, tonight was a great drama that was played. I could only think of the words of Teddy Roosevelt as I was sitting there. It is far better to dare mighty things even though we might fail, than to stay in a twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat.